Thank you very much, Eric, for that warm introduction. Boy, I'm excited to be here. I have to tell you that this is my very, very first speech where I said this morning to ChatGPT, give me the most powerful speech I can give to Circularity 23 conference. I got a few bites on it, and I said, now make it better than Jay Inslee's speech. Actually, I haven't used it yet. I just have play around with it and stuff like that. So these are speeches that a compilation of some of the work we're doing here, and I'll try to speak from my heart as I generally do for those that I do not know. Thank you for being here in Seattle, number one. I think that you're seeing a good taste of the weather that we do not tell other people about, because we are actually one of the fastest growing big city in the country right now. And I like to think it's because of some of our, we're a city of innovation. You may recall, and unfortunately a lot of you are younger than me, but you may recall that the city of Seattle put itself on the map to be a city of innovation during 1962 during the World's Fair. We erected a Space Needle and we put the monorail up, and we said we'll be a city of forward thinking. And from that, we continue to grow in the world of high tech or biotech and through our university system. And we've always tried to say that we will innovate here. And when we talk about sustainability and innovation, green literally is in our name as the Emerald City. We do have a track record as an international leader in waste management, water stewardship, environmental justice, and climate policies, which quite candidly is sort of an add-on to us trying to be forward-thinking in our approach. We clearly are striving for a circular economy, where materials and water and resources are valued and nothing is wasted. Now, for those that don't know my personal background, I'll take a little point of personal privilege, that I grew up in sort of a biculture home. And my father, who was an African-American that came up here as a young man from New Orleans, Louisiana, he was, as my kids would say, tight with the money. We wasted nothing in the Harrell house. And he met, when he was 14, a little woman that was Japanese, and they went to the same high school together. And they got married when they were young and married their whole life here in Seattle. I attended the same high school they attended here. And she was, as my kids would say, tight with the money. And one of our family activities, we would go fishing, and my father was always a good stewardship of the fish. We'd just catch our limit, and we would clean the fish and eat the fish, and then my mother would think of a way to use the fish heads and the internal organs of the fish for fertilizer. And I was in that house where if we left lights on in the house, my father would scold my brother and I for leaving the lights in the house. And like I said, they were tight with the money. Everything mattered. But I didn't realize then until I became an old man and perhaps a father myself, what they were teaching me, the beauty of this circular economy. It wasn't phrased as such then, but that we didn't want to waste anything. And I've had the great privilege to go around the world and look at what they're doing in terms of environmental sustainability. I was recently in Iceland as an example, and this story about the fish had come back because I realized what they're doing in terms of hydrogen development, fuel cell development, and just making sure they have a circular economy there. So this work that you're embracing, I think, it does two things. Number one is it saves our planet. It could create millions, if not billions, of savings in our economy. It creates new jobs for everyone. But I also would suggest it does something even equally important. It's a unifying element amongst cultures. I talk about my biraciality here in the city only because I'm only the second person of color to be the mayor in 150 years. And thank you. I'm very proud of my voters. Very proud of my voters to recognize that the beauty of diversity, the celebration of diversity, is only important when it leads to a path of commonality, that which we have in common. And I will share with you that this desire, this passion to establish a circular economy in everything that we do, waste not, want not, this notion we could create a green economy and save money and create jobs and not hurt business but build business, This is a unifying element across all cultures. So secondly, I think my point is that this is a unifying element. And quite frankly, we do live in a country that has been obsessed with race. I want to repeat that, obsessed with race. That many of you have gone through the civil rights era, and we talk about some of the issues. It seems to come up over and over again. And as a biracial kid, this made me almost nauseous as a kid because I never knew where I fit into that argument. My wife, who happens to be African-American, and she has the intersectionality between race and gender, that when these discussions erupted as a young child, and she and I had gone to college together, I always wanted to change the subject. But here I am, I've been elected 4 times in this city. I'm now the mayor that I say, well, in everything that we do, whether it's education, public safety, environmental sustainability, whatever, transportation, whatever part of the ecosystem is, it's a unifying effort. So when you're here in Seattle celebrating our circular theory, if you will, it is a unifying element. And so when you see people in this room, quite frankly, this is one thing that some people of color do. We'll walk into a crowd and see how diverse it is. We'll walk in and we'll size you out. And I believe here in Seattle, at least I can't speak for your respective cities, that we embrace diversity. And not just, you may think I'm just talking about racial diversity. I'm talking about diversity in any way that you define it. Age, religion, gender, personal preferences in life, whatever it is. And you embrace it. And you don't just huddle around the coffee shop with everyone that thinks just like you. This work we're doing in the circular economy is going to be, I think, one of our most unifying elements in our country. We have the potential to generate billions of dollars in cost savings and economic developments, economic benefits if we do this right. I developed, we are recognized here by C40 as an international leader in fighting climate change and environmental sustainability. Our One Seattle Climate Agenda is not just about environmental sustainability, but again, supporting jobs, supporting business, supporting entrepreneurship. It's our opportunity to build these equitable green jobs that we're all talking about. And when I use that word equity, I know you embrace it. I believe you embrace it. I do my homework before I talk to conferences, and I get asked to speak at a lot of conferences. And when my staff helps me with looking at the format and the vision and what's been done in past years, I will ask, is this an organization, is this a movement that embraces equity? And indeed it is. In closing, I'll say this, that I believe that young people like me, young people have to be at the center of this movement. I recently had a meeting with our Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, and 5 mayors of Ukraine just a few weeks ago. And I talked about when I was a young kid that the Vietnam War was omnipresent in every demonstration. I said it was the college campuses and the kids that brought attention to it. And some of the cities in Ukraine are at least one city that I know of is filled with college students. And so I'm trying to see again in a war that's an attack on democracy. And I know, and I'm going to tie this into the circular economy, bear with me, that it's going to be our young voices, the youth in all of us that will continue to be vocal and to oppose that war that's happening in Ukraine. I believe that the circular economy movement, that the youth understand this, that I embrace it as a leader of this city with 14,000 employees, one of the per capita, one of the wealthiest cities in this country. I embrace it because I grew up watching a television commercial where a Native American was crying because people were littering. And again, I had a mother and father that were tight with the money. And they said, you don't waste. And if I took this economic theory and I took this ability to organize and we worked with our businesses, for example, when we looked at we tried to move away from the single-use packaging to the reusable packaging. When we became, I think, one of the first cities that started banning many of the styrofoam utensils and some of the other packaging materials that we're using, that I didn't bludgeon the businesses with it. I was president of the city council for 2 terms, We worked with the businesses. We said, this is an economic opportunity if we do it right. So I say to you that this work you're doing, number one, is a unifying element. It's a movement in equity. The youth will help us. The youthful spirit will help us. And this could be one of the greatest unifying efforts that we can embark upon in our lives, particularly those who are in the fourth quarter of their life. I'll close with a joke. You get 4 quarters in life. 1 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80. I'm in the 4th quarter. Now, some of these are saying, well, shoot, I want to live longer than 80. It's okay. You get 5 years of overtime, each overtime. You go 3, 4 overtimes if you want. I'm going for overtime myself. You go for overtime. Thank you for being here in Seattle. We love that you're here. Thank you very much.